I'll fix your busted shit.
I think he's cooked.
And that's what sent it on its mission to hell.
Woo! What's going on, y'all? It's Yeti from Yeti Machine Company. Back at it again with another busted ass Harley that we're gonna fix. This is a 2017 Dyna S, I believe. It's got the Screaming Eagle 110. This is a really nice bike. But we've got some funky ass noises coming from the transmission. Let's see if we can start it and I can kind of show you guys through the camera what the noise is. And then we're gonna tear it apart and see what the damage is. What's going on, y'all? It's Yeti from Yeti Machine Company. If you're watching this, I appreciate you. If you do already subscribe to my page, awesome. If not, go subscribe, go give it a like. Also, just so you know, if you check out the link up top, got my website up there. I got shirts, I got hats, I got all kinds of cool stuff. So hit that up, get a shirt, support me. Thanks, y'all. You might not be able to hear this very well, but if you come down here, the noise goes away. Noise goes away. Hopefully you got that. If you didn't, what's essentially happening is while the bike's running with the clutch disengaged in neutral. So that means your main shaft, or not your main shaft, but your counter shaft's turning. It's running in neutral. It's making all kinds of grindy, shitty noises. If I pull the clutch in and I put it in gear, that stops the counter shaft from rotating and stops making noise. I'm gonna guess that we blew a counter shaft bearing, but it's hard to know without pulling it apart. But hopefully you guys heard that on the audio. If not, I just made some loud engine noises. So I'm gonna throw this thing up on the lift and then we're gonna start tearing into it. All right, so we know we got a transmission noise. To figure out what's wrong, we're going to have to take the primary apart, which means most likely we're gonna need new primary gasket, O-ring for the drain plug, you know, the list goes on and on and on. So just be wary of that. Know that, you know, even if the bearing that's busted in the transmission is like 20 bucks, we've got a bunch of labor and a bunch of time to get to it. So that's kind of what we're working with. So in this situation, we're kind of treating it like an autopsy. I already know something's busted in this thing. It could be like a clutch bearing. I doubt it. It's most likely something in the transmission. But as we take it apart, like I'm gonna drain the fluids right now and look at the fluids. If there's a bunch of metal chunks in there, I shouldn't be cussing this much, huh? We're still like early in the video.
You're too deep.
Whatever.
You're in too deep.
If we see a bunch of metal chunks in there, then we know that something has busted. So we wanna pay attention to the fluid that's coming out of it. When we take the primary off, we're gonna look over all the components because, like say if his primary chain's stretched, we're not gonna put it back together with a stretched out primary chain. That's just stupid. So, you know, it's really easy when you're working on stuff to focus on what you know is broken, but you know, just use your 5 senses and that'll kind of help you diagnose what could be failing, and there could be multiple failures. So enough of me Jack John, I'm just gonna take it apart. Okay. He's got no primary fluid. That was, I mean, that wasn't even an ounce of primary. So that's not a good sign. So one thing that a lot of people screw up on the Harleys, especially the star bits. So this is a T25 and this is a T27. Not every kit comes with a T27. T27 is going to be the correct size. T25 is going to feel like the correct size, but if you look, it's a little loose. This one is wallered out pretty good. That might have to get drilled. The rest of these are okay, but that's something you don't want to just slap this thing on the zip gun and start blasting at stuff, because you could make problems worse. So we're going to replace that hardware. I know this one's stripped. Let's see if it comes off. We got lucky. Okay. Now, just smelling the oil that's on this gasket. Obviously you can't smell through the camera, but I do smell a little bit of burning. So, could need a clutch too. It's hard to say. This dude does wheelies and shit with this bike, which, you know, that's cool. You'll never see me wheelie a Harley, because, you know, I don't know how, and I don't want to learn how. I don't feel like wheeling a 900-pound bike. I respect the guys that do. I think that shit's tight. I like watching it, but yeah, not for me. Not my vibe. Call me a bitch. I don't care. I got 2 kids and I'm fat and slow. I'm not trying to wheelie these fucking things. They're heavy bikes, so you guys that do the stunt riding on the Harleys, you know, it beats them up. You know, you got to really stay on top of your maintenance. You got to use quality parts. So that's something to keep in mind if you're going to be doing the stunting. Ride until shit breaks. That's okay. I don't mind. Need more money for me, baby. I'll fix your busted shit. What's weird is I'm hoping that he drained the primary fluid, because he brought it to me in the back of a truck. So I gotta call him and ask him. I hope that he drained the primary fluid and he was fucking with it before he brought it to me. I hope that it wasn't getting ridden around like that, but we shall see. Okay, I don't see any major damage in here. We're gonna undo the chain tensioner and see if we get any movement on the inner. But yeah, I'm gonna bet that he drained it and was fucking with it before he brought it to me, because I don't see the kind of carnage that I would expect to see if he was running it dry. So that's a good thing. I like that. So we are going to go ahead and we're going to be taking the clutch basket and the compensator sprocket off. So on these newer ones and on the older ones, you have this snap ring. A lot of guys will reuse this, but you can, but looking at this one, see how it's kind of egged out? That's trash. Get a new one. Don't be cheap. You're asking for trouble, because this thing right here, this stupid little snap ring, if this blows out this groove in the clutch basket, or it bends or it caves or whatever, this is what actually makes everything work. So when you hit the clutch, it pushes a rod. It's down in there. It pushes a rod that pushes against this adjuster, that pushes against this plate, that pushes against this snap ring, and that is what actually disengages the clutch. So if this thing's fucked, you're screwed. So replace this every chance you get. They're like $5. It's way better than the alternative. On these newer Dynas, you have your normal, I don't know what size it is, your hex. This is reverse thread, so it's righty loosey, lefty tighty. This is I believe a T47 Torx bolt. Tension looks good. Okay, so we're gonna leave all the primary stuff on while we break this shit loose, just because it's easier. One thing is, I know in some of my videos you guys have seen me use like a rag or something stuffed up in this chain. In this situation, with these types of automatic adjusters, I do not suggest doing that. Reason being, I have busted these stupid pieces of shits before by standing on it trying to break this shit loose. Your best bet is to cut a piece of metal and make a wedge. You don't want to put a lot of tension on this guy. So I'm gonna grab that thing. Hopefully it fits, because this has the mids. If not, I gotta make a different one. We'll see. This is for an Evo Dyna. It's pretty close, so I think it'll work. As you can see, Evo Dyna. It's just a piece of flat plate, nothing special. Do not use a torque wrench as a breaker bar. If you care about your torque wrench. It's only a couple $100 for a snap-on. Okay, so we want to check our tensioner. Seems to be in good shape. The reason why I held it when I took it out is, see, as the chain wears out, this little shoe is forced up and up and up and up against these teeth. Now, if you accidentally send this thing, don't worry about it. It's really easy to reset. So on these, you can actually take the compensator sprocket off. Separate. Now, one thing you want to make sure you want to take note. So you've got, in these compensators, the idea here is you got these washers, right? These washers provide spring pressure out this way against this ramp, okay? These ramps run against these lobes. You can see wear marks where it's been rubbing. So the idea is that while this thing's running, it kind of bounces in between these lobes. And when it's starting and when it's giving it torque, it kind of, they call it a compensator because it's compensating for the pulsing of the motor. So we're just inspecting things as they're coming off, making sure everything was on there correctly. So this ramp looks okay. It's not cracked, not beat up. It's definitely got some wear on it. So this thing's had some, you know, you can see a little bit of heat checking in there where it's rubbed. Your spring washers are always gonna go. So you have these fat ones. These are actually referred to as Belleville washers. If you look, or Belleville springs, it's got kind of a dish to it, and it actually squishes that. These can crack. The cool thing about these types of spring systems is they provide a lot of tension with a very small amount of travel, very small amount of space. So this one's the same way. So we're taking note of how these things are oriented, because if I put them in like this is how it came out, right? That gap is, I don't know, 1.5 inches. If I screw up and I don't pay attention to which way these things go, and I put these washers in like this, well, all of a sudden now I've got a 1/2 inch gap. Now I hope you wouldn't be so stupid to do it that way. But I have seen people, for instance, accidentally put this spring in like this. Now if you look, that's a big difference in space up against that compensator. And so what can happen is if you put it in like this, you put that compensator back together, you're gonna go to fire it up, and that compensator is gonna make all kinds of clacking and rattling and make all kinds of noise because it doesn't have the proper tension or the proper space. So if you're doing this job at home, just pay attention to what you're doing, and that usually keeps you safe. All right, so next we're gonna take our clutch basket off. And I already cracked this loose, so it doesn't matter.
Ooh. I heard that. It's at the bottom.
Hear that shit? Ooh. You can hear all kinds of shit moving around in there. Ooh. It sounds like a skateboard bearing.
There's like a small marble in there or something.
Yeah, so I would bet money we're gonna find rollers from the input shaft bearing rolling around inside that transmission case. That's what that noise is. You can hear it. Yeah, those are clapped. So. Okay, well, I mean, we kind of know what's wrong with it, but obviously that's no fun for video, so we're gonna keep tearing it apart. So, clutch bearing seems okay. The basket bearing. So what's happening, like in this kid's situation, right? That's why, like when we heard it running, with the bike in gear, but the clutch pulled in, it didn't sound bad. You know, that's pretty quiet. Because being in gear, basically it's slipping the clutch discs in between each other. Now, let's put it in, it's in neutral right now, so it would actually be spinning all of these. You can hear it. It's hammered. And I can actually feel it. Look at that. Look at that, look at this. Watch how much this thing moves. This thing's fucked.
So it shouldn't wobble like that?
Fuck no.
No?
Nope.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it's like coming in and out, in and out.
It's roached. It's dusty. Okay. Oof. She's roached. A little noisy. That's not going to be what the problem is. All right, so now that we've got the whole primary assembly taken apart, only thing I got to do is I'm going to disconnect the battery. On these ones, you just got to take a couple bolts off for the starter, because the starter bolts onto the back of the inner primary, and then you've only got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bolts that hold the inner primary on, and then we'll be able to get to the back side of the transmission. Hopefully, we'll be able to see a little bit more of what's going on as far as damage. All right, so now we've got the inner primary off. I still got to take this guy off, but just more observations, but we've got a lot of end play here, a lot of noise, not too much up and down play, but yeah, that's a little noisy. So next thing I'm gonna do is pop this guy off and then pop the sprocket off, and then we'll be to the transmission. Hopefully I can pull the seal away and we'll be able to see that main bearing. I'm hoping that it's just the main bearing, but we shall see. All right, we're back. It's another day. So last time we left off, we were pulling all this stuff off the transmission. Right now, I'm fighting to get this dumbass sprocket nut off. So I actually stopped by my buddy. Shout out to Till Death Cycles. I borrowed this big bastard of a socket from him. So this is what you need to get this guy off. But this thing is tight. I have tried to hit it with a torch. I've tried beating on it, and it's fighting me. So we gotta keep fighting. I got my lovely assistant, Mr. Blakers. I don't know why he's hiding from the camera right now, but so yeah, I'm gonna drop this thing down and try to warm that nut up again, and then we're gonna try to blow it off with this fucking baseball bat breaker bar that I got from good old Harbor Freight earlier. So that's what we're working on. And it's 110 fucking degrees outside too, so working with the torch when it's this hot is really gonna suck. Now obviously I'm fucking this seal up in here, but I know that's gotta be replaced anyways. So not really much I can do to make this any better, so gotta roll with it. That brake ain't doing shit. You stomping on that brake? Yeah, no, that's okay. You don't gotta lean the whole way over.
It's not the brake isn't doing shit.
The brake is not doing a goddamn thing.
1 hour later.
Touch it. Watch it crack. this, Rob?
Oh, you got some metal bits? Ooh.
That's for the drain plug. So there's definitely some chunks of shit. So
I think he's cooked.
oh man, that sucks, dude. That's a bad sign when I wiped some of it off.
No, that's a lot.
When you got that much metal on there, that's not a good sign.
It's like fine shavings too.
God bless him. Yeah, he had like
That's all the oil that was
I
in
was
there?
gonna say there's no fucking oil in that transmission either. That'll blow your transmission. There's no fucking oil in it. Not good.
Yeah, right about half, huh?
Yeah, that's a halfer. That sucks. All right, well, let's keep turning it down. Next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take off this trap door. That's gonna get us to this side, the bearings. I'll show you. This. Oh. There's his bearing. Yeah. Oh yeah.
How many balls are you missing?
I don't know. Let's see. We should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, they're all there. That's gonna be the input shaft, which I think is called the main shaft. That's the main shaft bearing. Can you zoom in on that?
Mm-hmm.
See how beat the balls are? Let me grab a.
Oh yeah, they're all pitted.
They're all pitted and beat to fuck. This guy was sitting in there. Yeah, that's kind of weird. I've never seen it where, I guess it must have just gotten so sloppy, but yeah, here's the balls are super, look how loose they are. See how loose those balls are? And then, well, we can't see that side, but yeah, I mean, they're fucking hammered. And if you can't, I don't think you're gonna be able to see with the camera, but the inner race of this bearing is torched. It's like somebody threw rocks in it. You know, he might get lucky. He might not need a whole transmission. I mean,
So where are those shavings from though?
probably the bearing race material. I don't know. I still want to pull the whole cassette out and check it. But if all the damage is on this end, the chances of anything being damaged on the other side might be less. But we won't know until we pull the cassette all the way out. So your bike's running, right? This is on the clutch hub. Okay. Okay. So while the bike's running, it's sitting there turning this shaft. Now if you look on that side, that's the shaft that I'm turning. Right? So motor's sitting there running. If I click it into gear, now all of them should be turning, both sides. And then if I go to second, it moves the gear over. You can't see that right now. But watch, come over here. So once it's in gear, as I'm turning this, see how this speed is different than this speed? So this is what's outputting to the chain. Then up a gear, now it's going faster, up a gear, now that's going even faster. I think that's 5th, that's 6th. So now,
That's 1-to-1.
it's either 1-to-1 or overdrive, I'm not sure on the 6-speeds. But now, so the majority of the load is being taken up by the input shaft. Yeah. So the only way to really know if it's fucked is popping the cassette out. And to do that, I got to take the top cover off. Jesus, it's so hot. I'm like, I can barely even think straight right now. I hate that shit. My brain stops working. Like my brain's working, like I know what I'm doing, but like I can't talk. I can't make thoughts. It's just like kind of both. The fucking lizard brain is taking over in this heat. I was doing it just so I could get this shifter pawl out of the way. Let me grab my light. So yeah, I think that'll clear. More chunks of shit in this thing. This is all that bearing race material. It was all piled up in here. So the way this works is when you pull your clutch cable, this little arm has ramps and ball bearings underneath. So when you pull it, see how it comes up? Just a little bit, but it's enough to release the clutch. That's how it works. So when we go to put this thing back together, yeah, you can see it lifting when you pull the clutch. So when we go to put this back together, we'll clean all this shit up. So next thing we got to do is we're just gonna undo these bolts and give it a couple whacks from the other side, and the whole cassette should just come right out. That's the idea. There's the transmission. Should pull. What are we hitting on? Oh, probably the dipstick. Okay. That bearing seems okay. We might have dodged a bullet. So we're gonna stand this thing up right now. Okay. So I think the shaft's okay. There goes the bearing. It's the bearing. Yeah, look at that inner race. See how beat that shit is?
Oh yeah.
So I'm gonna bet, it's hard to say, but I'm gonna bet that it got hot because of no lube, and that's what sent it on its mission to hell. That's what I'm gonna guess. Yeah, the synchronizers look okay. Probably change both the bearings just to be safe in the trapdoor, but yeah, I mean, and then clean the case out really well. It's very good. It's a lot better than a fucking $5,000 transmission. Yeah, I mean, obviously I gotta do some more inspection on it, but I think he's gonna be okay. Good news and bad news, right? We figured out that transmission looks like it's gonna be okay, except for a couple bearings. Obviously we've got seals and gaskets and shit that we gotta replace now that it's been torn apart. But all in all, I think he's gonna get out of it without losing his ass. What's going on, y'all? I don't really remember where we left off last time. I had a bit of a long wait time on parts for this thing, but here we are. So we're working on that 2017 Dyna. The transmission trapdoor bearing had taken a shit. So I got the old trapdoor bearing off of the, whatever this is, counter shaft, main shaft, I don't remember. Main shaft. And so now that we've got parts back, let me show you what we're gonna be installing on this thing. So we picked up this street door from Baker. This thing is badass. Completely different retaining system as far as the trapdoor bearings go. On this one, on the factory one, you've got these little spring clips, and you know, they work great, but unfortunately if you're beating on these things, it's not an uncommon issue to lose your trapdoor bearing. So on this Baker street door, it's got this really nice big plate that retains the bearings in there, and the bearings themselves are, I think, 28% wider. So it gives a little bit more contact on the balls when it's being torqued, and obviously it's really nice and it says Baker on it, so that's cool. First thing we're gonna do, this one, like I said, this was the side that had the bearing that was blown out, and so that came out pretty easy. But to get the other side out, we have to use some special tools. So I use this company called George's Garage. They don't really have any social. They're not big on social media as far as I can tell. But this guy makes awesome tools. They're made in the United States. Price-wise, comparably to other large brands, they're like usually 30 to 50% cheaper. So this is the kit that comes from George's. It's pretty sick. It's got instructions and everything. But basically what you're gonna do, now usually you'd have to push both these out, but because we blew that bearing out, we don't necessarily need to take this one out. So the way this thing works is it kind of mounts how the old clutch cover mounts, and it's got these through holes. So this just kind of locks it onto the transmission. And it's got these through holes, and this is what you use to press the shaft out of the bearing. So let's slap that on real quick. We're gonna push this out, and then I'm gonna show you how we're gonna reassemble it using the new Baker trapdoor. I'm gonna show you how fucking easy and nice this tool works. So basically, all we're doing is we're forcing the shaft out. So you gotta, it's kind of a bitch, but you gotta kind of hold it. It's basically just a press tool. And that son of a bitch is gonna slide right out. Boom. Just like that. Real simple. Works great. This also works as an installer. So this is for pulling, like if you need to pull the bearing back into the trapdoor, you would basically take this trapdoor off, put a new bearing on it, stick this guy in here, and then you've got a nut and a washer that you would use to pull the bearing back into it. Anyways, now that we've got all the old shit, we don't need this trapdoor. I'm gonna put that on the wall of shame. So another tool from George's Garage are these little installation nuts. Now, I don't know if these are 100% necessary, but what I like about them is they're big, they're fully threaded, and so when you install these shafts back into the transmission, you basically got to pull it into the bearing. So these make it way easier. So it allows you to reach down in here. Let's turn this so you can see. So we've got our starting threads. So what we're gonna do, make sure if you're gonna do this, use fucking soft jaws so you don't fuck up your transmission. You don't want to damage any materials that are going into bearings. I've got these nice aluminum soft jaws to kind of hold everything. Okay. Okay, so this is going to pull us into the bearing. Nice and easy. Perfect. All right, there's one. Okay. So we know you want to make sure that you look down in there that everything's seated correctly and also that it's going in straight. So that one's good. Gonna do the same thing with this one. And make sure all your gears kind of mesh together. I'm gonna hold on that spline right there. Okay. And just like butter. Boom. Nice solid landing. Why are we... Interesting. So one thing I just found out, because I struggled with it the last few minutes, on this top gear, you have this bearing, this bearing in here. You also have this little ring. Now you want to make sure that when you set this stuff up, you can actually have it where this ring sits down this way. You want to make sure it meshes down all the way onto the gears. Otherwise it's going to screw your whole day up. So that's what almost happened to me. This ring right here with this little edge actually locks these little guys, these little retaining clips, into the back side of the gear. So you want to make sure those are in all the way. This guy faces down. Boom. Then you're gonna take your Torrington bearing, goes onto the shaft. This guy goes here. Oh, we're gonna put a little bit of assembly lube on here, just to be safe. So we don't burn this thing up as soon as we put it together. Oh yeah. And it goes onto the Torrington bearing. And then you got your washer. Okay. Don't smash my fucking fingers. Working. Now we've got that in. Next thing we're gonna do, we've got our retaining clip. Got this guy, goes over the retaining clip. A bolt on the retaining clip. And then we will slap in our forked, my shifter forks. So I labeled them with a zip tie. These go in a specific direction. They're kind of hard to fuck up, but you can get them mixed up and kind of screw your day up. But this is my first one. This guy's gonna go over here on the back side of this guy. That locks into there. Bada boom. Then there's a pin that goes through and locks all these together. So I've got the pins in the freezer to make my life a little bit easier. We're just gonna tap them in real soft. It's not a super tight press fit, but a press fit nonetheless. All right, so got our transmission reassembled. Sixth, fifth, fourth, third, second, neutral, and first. So, all right, so we're gonna pop our gasket onto the trap door. That's where our little dowel pins are. It's got like a nice tight little fit. I'm gonna take a little bit of assembly lube. I'm gonna put some on this shaft. And put some on this shaft. And on here. We'll put a little bit on the shift forks too. Just for when we go to start it. Be safe. Better be safe than sorry. Bearing in the fifth gear. A couple bearings in here. Make sure we get these all nice and lubed up. I've already checked all these, but obviously if you're putting this thing back together, you want to make sure that all these bearings are good. All right, so we are ready to slap our transmission cassette back into the case. Pretty much just reassembling this thing how it came out. Oh, one thing to note on these Baker trap doors, this little guy right here is actually a magnet. So this is a big floating magnet. This is designed to pick up any shit that that spins around in the transmission. This magnet is designed to move around, so you don't think that this bolt's loose. Only reason why I know that is because that's what I thought, but that's how these trap doors come. So again, this thing's all moving nice and smooth. We know that we assembled it correctly. So now we're gonna put it back in the bike. As this thing goes in, you're gonna get to a point where the shifter pawl is gonna be in the way. So you wanna make sure you lift that and that it actually locks into the shift drum. And that's it, transmission's back in, baby. Not a big deal. First gear, and then neutral, second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. And so now it's pretty much just a reverse of everything we did in the beginning. This is the main part that needed to be replaced and fixed. And yeah, I mean, I think it's beautiful. I like the look of the Baker unit with the webbing and the engraving on it. They also supply new hardware, which is awesome. Nice stainless steel. But yeah, so pretty much just gonna be a time lapse of me putting this thing back together. We are back. We're working on this damn Dyna still. I ran into another little problem. So on a lot of Harleys, you run into issues with exhaust studs. They strip, they break. It's a high heat area and it's high fatigue. This one was no different. So can't really see too well, but basically that stud right there was stripped out really bad. Now, it didn't snap off, so I had to go in there with my my cutoff wheel and my grinder, get a little tight, get a little close. As you can see, I removed a little bit of the paint and material on the cylinder head, but we had to actually cut that stud off and drill it out. Couldn't get a good grip on it to remove it, but I wanted to show you guys another tool that I use in this situation that works great. So this is it. It's an exhaust stud drill guide. This is made by George's Tools as well. Shout out to George's Tools. This thing's great. So what you do, as long as you have one good stud, you can take your drill guide, you can pop it up in the cylinder head and bolt it in, and it gives you a nice drill bushing for a 1/4 inch drill. And so you can actually drill the stud out. And then you just got to go back with the tap and clean it up. I like to use one of these long drill bits. It really allows you to get in there and not have to worry about running your drill against the motor. Now all I need to do is retap the hole, reinstall the stud, then the exhaust is on, and do an oil change, and that's it. This bike will finally be done. So it's about a week later after that last clip was taken. If you saw, the tap broke. Snapped the tap off in the exhaust port, and that really fucked my day up. I tried a tap extract. I didn't film because I just was so pissed, and I don't know. Maybe I should have. So what I had to do was I had to take a carbide burr and basically surgically remove the rest of the tap that was stuck in the cylinder head. And by that time, the threads were dusted. So had to drill that hole out a little bit, had to use a helicoil. As you can hear, I'm sick too. My wife and both my kids are sick. So it's been a rough week. It's been actually one of the roughest weeks I've had in a while, but we're finally at the finish line. So let me show you. Boom, baby. Bike's all back together. So I got the exhaust on. That's the one that busted. So yeah, after that, all I had to do was finish up the oil change. I don't think there was really anything crazy left to get this thing done. So yeah, let's give her a fire up. I'm hoping everything's good. Make sure we're in neutral. Hell yeah, baby. So yeah, I'm ridiculously hyped that this thing is done. Yeah, let's go take it for a test drive. All right, let's see how she rides. Very nice, very nice. Not mad at all. Well, all in all, I'm pretty hyped on it. Came out good. Everything seems to be operating correctly. I went and stood on her a little bit, and she seems to be running good, not making any noises or any weird fucking pops and bangs. So anyways, if you like what you watch, do me a favor, like this video, subscribe, leave a comment. I appreciate all you guys that subscribe and comment. It makes my day. So yeah, until next time. Party on, baby.